Guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren. Welcome to a Chef's Inc. News Special Report. I'm Chef Antonio, and today we're diving into a story that will absolutely shock the culinary world. We're not talking about political nonsense, we're not discussing climate catastrophes, and we're definitely not covering those completely verrückt TikTok food trends that make me question humanity's Geschmack. Nein, my friends, today's breaking story strikes at the very hearts of French culture. We're talking about cheese, but not just any cheese. We're talking about Camembert, that creamy, gooey, gloriously stinky pride of Normandy. Scientists across Europe are issuing the most alarming warning. The very mold that gives this legendary cheese its life, it's collapsing. The fungus is literally dying before our eyes. Could France really lose Camembert forever? This is more than food news. This is cultural survival. Stay with us. This Chef's Inc. MIV special is proudly powered by Chef's Inc. Private Chef and Catering Services, where tradition meets innovation, where every dish tells a Geschichte.
Gracias, Antonio. I'm Dr. Sophia. And mira, this story is absolutely fascinating and terrifying at the same time. La verdad is, what we're witnessing is unprecedented in artisanal cheese-making. Camembert's magic, that incredible sabor and texture that food lovers worldwide have cherished for centuries, comes from a very specific fungus called Penicillium camemberti. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, cariño. Since the 1950s, for over 70 years, industrial cheesemakers have relied exclusively on one albino strain of this fungus. This single strain creates that perfect Instagram-worthy white rind that consumers expect. But here's the devastating problema that scientists discovered. This strain is completely sterile. It literally cannot reproduce sexually. For 70 decades, this fungus has just been cloned over and over, like some biological copy machine, and now it's running out of steam.
Sophia, hold on just one moment. So you're telling me the cheese mold responsible for one of France's greatest treasures is sterile, fragile, and having performance problems? Heiliger Schnitzel. That reminds me of my kumpel from culinary school. Same issues, different species.
Ay, Antonio, I'm not touching that comparison. But scientifically, you're not wrong. Without sexual reproduction, harmful mutations just pile up generation after generation. Scientists call it clonal degeneration. Think of it like this. Imagine photocopying a family recipe for 70 years. Each copy gets blurrier until you can't read Abuela's handwriting anymore. That's exactly what's happening to our Camembert fungus. It's losing its ability to produce viable spores.
So France's most iconic cheese is hanging by a thread because its fungus has performance anxiety? Wunderbar, just wunderbar. But Sophia, let me tell you something importante. Camembert isn't just cheese, it's French identity on a plate. This cheese was born in Normandy, it fed soldiers in the trenches of World War I, it's been the soul of French dinner tables for generations. In France, if you insult someone's Camembert, you might as well insult their grandmother's cooking, their entire familia honor. Now, imagine telling a proud Frenchman, "Sorry, monsieur, no more Camembert, ever." Macron has survived political scandals, Paris hosted the Olympics, but no Camembert. That's not just a crisis, that's revolution. They won't just burn tires, they'll burn wheels of brie and protest.
Exacto, Antonio. And this is where our story becomes much bigger than just one cheese, no matter how culturally significant. What we're witnessing with Camembert is a warning we've witnessed with other critical foods. Mira, bananas. Almost every banana you've eaten is the same Cavendish variety. Or cacao, the foundation of chocolate, facing similar genetic bottlenecks. Wine grapes, too. Whenever we rely on a single genetic variety, we create massive fragility. One disease, one mutation, and entire food systems can collapse overnight, affecting millions of familias worldwide.
So basically, our Instagram obsession killed Camembert. Everyone demanded that perfect white rind, no spots, no character, no personality. But nature hates uniformity, Sophia. Nature thrives on beautiful chaos.
Exactamente, cariño. Diversity is resilience. It's nature's insurance policy. When we eliminate that diversity for cosmetic perfection, we become incredibly vulnerable. We're literally one bad mutation away from losing not just a product, but an entire food culture that communities have built over centuries. But here's some hope in this depressing story, mi amor. The scientists, microbiologists, traditional cheesemakers, they're not giving up. Far from it. They're going back to basics with renewed determination. There are facilities called microbial banks, like frozen zoos for fungi. These banks preserve samples for decades. You can think of them as, well, Tinder for molds, if you will. Scientists are trying to swipe right and match our failing Camembert strain with fresh, vigorous partners.
You just said Tinder for molds? Sophia, that's brilliant. I would actually sign up for that app. Picture the profile. Mature fungus seeking long-term fermentation partnership, must love dark, damp cellars and have excellent sporulation, interested in deep flavor development. Swipe right if you're ready for serious culture cultivation. Absolutely genial.
¡Qué locura! But yes, exactly. And beyond microbial matchmaking, researchers are exploring rewilding the cheese. This means carefully reintroducing wild fungal strains to restore genetic diversity that made original Camembert so robust. They're using biotechnology to identify the healthiest spores and strengthen them molecularly. But here's the challenge that requires courage from everyone. All these solutions mean chefs and consumers might need to accept Camembert that looks or tastes different than what's stored in their memories. Maybe with natural gray coloring or more rustic, earthy aromas reflecting wild origins.
You know what, Sophia? If that's the price to save real, authentic, glorious Camembert from extinction, then count me in completely. Because honestly, contemplating a world without genuine, properly aged, beautifully stinky Camembert, that's not just disappointing. That's absolutely heartbreaking beyond words. It would mean losing centuries of human handcraft.
¿Sabes qué, Antonio? You're absolutely right. This isn't just about preserving a cheese. It's about preserving cultura, tradition, and the stories our food tells. Each wheel of Camembert carries the history of Norman farmers, the wisdom of generations that understood that good food takes time, patience, and respect for natural processes.
Genau. And that brings us to the bigger lesson here, my friends. Our modern food system, with all its efficiency and global reach, is more fragile than people realize. When we sacrifice diversity for uniformity, when we prioritize appearance over substance, we risk losing culinary treasures that define who we are.
La verdad es, Antonio, this crisis teaches us that perfection isn't always perfect. Sometimes the most beautiful things, like cheese with character, with natural variations, are the strongest. In my family, my abuela always said, the best dishes weren't the prettiest, but the ones made with love and tradition. That's what we're fighting to preserve.
Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman, Sophia, and that wisdom applies to Camembert too. So, the next time you encounter genuine Camembert, take a moment to appreciate what you're experiencing. You're not just eating cheese, you're consuming history, science, and cultural heritage all in one glorious stinky bite.
Exacto. And raise a glass while you're at it, because you're participating in an ongoing fight for culinary diversity that benefits everyone. This cheese represents resistance against homogenization, celebration of authentic flavors over artificial perfection.
Wunderbar conclusion, Sophia. Camembert isn't extinct yet, it's still gracing cheese boards worldwide, but the warning is crystal clear. Food is fragile, and we must protect the diversity that makes our culinary world so rich and meaningful.
So, here's our challenge to listeners. Support artisanal producers. Embrace imperfection. And remember that the most beautiful foods often come with character, not cosmetic perfection. Al pan, pan, y al vino, vino. Let's call things what they are and value authenticity over appearance.
This has been your Chefs Inc. News Special Report, powered by Chefs Inc. private chef and catering services, where honoring tradition secures the future of food. Accordion music returns with thoughtful, slightly melancholy melody before fading to silence.
Now, here's a question for you to discuss with familia and friends. If you had to choose between the perfect version of a food you love and a more diverse, resilient, but less consistent version, which would you choose? What factors would influence your decision? Think about it, talk about it, and let us know your thoughts. Until next time, this is Chef Antonio.
And Dr. Sophia, reminding you that the best stories are told through food and the best foods tell stories of their own. Hasta la próxima.